Hey, everybody, welcome back to Odd and Untold. This is episode 19. And this week I'm welcoming a longtime friend, longtime collaborator in the paranormal world, Courtney Mroch from Jaunts. Courtney, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
This is really awesome. We were kind of talking off air, but we've known each other like 12 years now.
Long
And this is
time.
probably the first time we've talked face to face.
It is. It is.
Yeah, we've contributed to each other's blogs. Yours is hauntjaunts.net, and I'll put links below for everybody in the comments and the description. But we've collaborated for a long time. We've talked for many years, and I just before I let you speak, I just want to say thank you because, and I'm going to tell everybody how we met. So about 12 years ago, I started my first blog, which is called The Occult Section, and things weren't the way they were now with all the resources online and everything. And so I reached out to some other blogs that were kind of a similar vein to what I was doing, and yours was one of them. You were really like the only person who like responded and gave me good advice and was like really friendly about it. Other people were just kind of like either they didn't respond or they were just like, oh yeah, I'll get back to you. And you and I just kind of struck up a really fast friendship. And you helped me a lot in those early days, like because you had Jaunts for a while at that point. Um, and I always appreciated that with you because you were just so nice to me and so sweet to me. And again, we've been friends for 12 years now. And I just wanted to thank you on air. I've thanked you in the blog before. I don't know if you've seen those blog posts, but because as we were talking about off air, Google sort of tanked my traffic and my rankings. So but yeah, you were always so sweet to me, so kind, and you didn't have to be because I was competition in a sense, and but you really helped me get that first blog off the ground and kind of led to me where I am today. So thank you.
You're welcome. I had absolutely no idea that was our story.
Yeah, well, it's been 12 years. I mean, it's easy to forget, but I don't forget when people are nice to me.
I just knew that I just knew occult section, and I just knew we somehow talked. And I remember I am not on face. I mean, technically I'm still on Facebook, my name, but I'm not active on Facebook anymore. And I remember we would always have really great, exchanges. But I just thought you were always there. I had no idea that I helped at anything at all. So I just thought you were. That's
No,
what.
I wish I was always there.
Oh gosh.
I loved your site. I loved your vibe. And I remember I just reached out to you and I was like, hey, like I'm new to all this and how do I do this and how do I do that? What do you advise on this? And you just gave me tons of good advice and we would talk and yeah, you helped me a lot. So
That's all. I'm
yeah.
actually relieved to hear that because I don't even remember, but
Yeah. Well,
I'm
like,
so glad.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's how it is sometimes with friendships. When they go back that long, you just kind of like, how did we even meet again? Like, where did you come
Haven't I
from?
just always known you?
Haven't I just
No,
always known? Yeah. um, so yeah, so I always appreciated that. So thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for coming on today. So,
Thank you for having me.
um, oh, you're welcome. So, since we've been mentioning it, can you just tell everybody a little bit about what Jaunts is?
Sure, it's a site for restless spirits who are possessed by a spirit of adventure and a bad case of wanderlust, and who are obsessed with true crime, horror, and the paranormal. So I kind of cover all gamut: travel, entertainment, events, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And just a very cool site. You go to a lot of cool places. You travel a lot, from what I
Yeah.
see,
Well,
which is awesome.
I'm
You,
getting back to traveling. That stupid COVID came along and
yeah,
squelched things for a while.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, and I know you had a podcast for a while. I believe you paused that.
It's paused right now, and I'm trying to reconfigure it.
Okay.
So I mean, not reconfigure. I'm just trying to. I want to do more series. I started off just kind of whatever, and then I decided to make it more. Each season would be themed.
Hmm.
So now I'm just trying to get that in order. It's a lot of work to put together. So I just figured I'll take a break and regroup and get my ducks in a row. And the other thing is too, I realized, like I did with the Haunting American True Crimes season, I can turn that into a book when I do all the I mean, I write my scripts out so I can read them. Like, well, some people don't like to listen to podcasts, but they like to read. So now I'm in the process of putting that into a book to put out. And then when I get that one done, I'll start the next
Oh,
podcast, turn it into a book. That's my new avenue that I'll be pursuing.
oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have a YouTube channel?
Yes.
What do you?
Trying to.
Yeah, no, you've been doing great. I saw you interviewed the director and the cast of the Spirit Halloween movie
Oh yeah,
recently.
that was so fun. I got two of the cast members. It was so fun. They were so patient because speaking of record, like you're like, are you okay to record now? I'm like, yes, I had forgotten to record it first with them. So then
Uh,
I was all scattered and had to go in, but they were so nice about it. So it
that's
was good.
cool. It's nerve-wracking doing this, like being on camera and talking and again, you and I were kind of talking about this before, off air about just how we've had to evolve. I mean, our sites have been around. I mean, yours have been around a lot longer than mine, but mine goes back 12, 13 years, the occult section, and Jaunts goes back much further than that.
No, I don't think too much
No?
because I think I started in 2009. So that's about 13 years, right? 14? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, give or take. You
Bad
were
at math.
around before me, but still, like we started out as bloggers.
Yeah.
There was no Instagram, there was no TikTok, there was no YouTube, and
No, Twitter had just started, I
Twitter had
think.
just started.
Facebook, I think, had just started. I mean, they were maybe around a year or two when I started, but it
Yeah.
was just people were still trying to figure out how do we use this stuff. And now I'm like, how do I unuse this stuff?
Yeah, so this is a brave new world for us because we were always writers. We would write and
Yeah.
post and that is a safe medium because you can edit, you can go back and proofread, you're not stumbling over your words and like
And
because
people
I
can see you.
people can see you, they can hear your voice, and like I said off air, like I have the face for radio, the voice for blogging.
And I think that he has a beautiful he's got that it factor and a great voice. It's nice and deep and strong, and I think you have it. So
Well, thank you.
that's
Um,
my personal opinion.
Thank you. I don't, but here I am anyway. So,
And if you keep this in, I'm just going to tell everybody, leave a comment saying you agree with me.
well, thank you. Um, but yeah, you're just very prolific. You write a ton. You had the podcast, your YouTube videos. I know you just did one. You did a blog post today just about the Burger King app that they're doing the ghost
Oh
meter.
yeah. Yeah. They're giving
Yeah,
yeah, that's crazy in their app electromagnetic field ghost detector in the BK app. I think that's hilarious. How could I
yeah.
not write about that? That
Oh,
was
exactly,
that was just too
exactly.
funny. Have a ghost burger, ghost whopper burger, whatever they call it, and look for ghosts.
So yeah, that's great. I mean, you post a ton, you have a ton of content, and I love the site, and I'm so grateful you've let me contribute in the past, and I'm grateful you've contributed to my site in the past. It's good to collaborate, and here
It
we are
is.
again. Um, so one thing I want to ask you, a couple of things. So let me just backtrack. Do you want to just share the story about how you started Haunt Jaunts? I know it's a personal story. I don't know if you're okay with that. I know it's on your website, but
Yeah, it's
you want to
there.
just tell everybody how you came to start Haunt Jaunts, and because this is your passion. I mean, this is just and you're passionate about it. It's great, and you're so chipper, and you just have such a great attitude, and you don't find that in the paranormal community too much. It's a lot of just jaded, cantankerous people uh, who joke about other articles and post them on their blog, and then get struck down for plagiarism by Google algorithms. Uh,
That was unfair, by the way, that happened to hit. That's the best way to do. I love your snarkiness and just you would hit it because I think that's why we gel is we see it so much the same. We're on that same
yeah, definitely.
wavelength and yeah. So
So I'm sorry. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about how you got Haunt John started.
okay, so I unfortunately got cancer in 2009. Well, technically 2008, but then when I got diagnosed, I had asked the my oncologist, what do people do who want to live, because he's like, you're gonna either live or you're gonna die. They're one or the other. So I said, well, what do I do to, hedge my bet? And he said, well, the people that do the best, get off the couch. They don't lay there. And unfortunately, that, in the beginning, all I could do, because I was in so much pain, was lay there. But I made lists, like, what do I want to do? As I get better, and what really, what am I passionate about? So one of the things was, I had always wanted to write a book called Jaunts, a guide for restless spirits. And I was like, well, and at that time it wasn't, oops, sorry, Amazon, publish easy, just you can create your own thing. You had to go through the whole publishing and submitting and, waiting for if you wanted an agent or whatever. And I didn't know if I would be around for all that. So I said, well, I can start a blog. And then I did. And it was my get off the couch, project. So that's what kind of kept me going. And then I just kept at it.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I was very similar. I wanted to write, but how do you get published? How do you, especially as an unpublished person, it's like, I'm not, you want to see my old college papers? Like, what can I show you? So yeah, blogging was just such a great outlet for, people like us who had something to say back in the day. What got you into the paranormal though? Like, was that just something you were always into, or like,
Yeah.
why haunt Jones?
I think because, well, even as a bitty kid, I was always into ghost scary, and my parents traveled quite a bit. We were always not so much, well, we did travel by plane and stuff too, but always in the car somewhere, always going. My dad loved to go places, and he would take me to, the Winchester Mystery House or ghost towns in Colorado. And he knew I loved anything like that. And, so he's really responsible for a lot of that. And then I had several experiences, and one of them was when I was a paralegal. We used to live in Phoenix, Arizona, but I got sent to the office in Salt Lake City, and I stayed at this hotel. And one night I was sleeping, and I was woken up, and there was giggling, like children giggling in the drawers. And I was like, why? What is happening? Why are children, there can't be children in my room? But it was so visceral that I was like, well, this is the weirdest dream I've ever had. But it wouldn't go away even when I was awake. And I did the sense that something's there, that sense you get. So I got up and I checked the drawers there's no way kids can be in a drawer. And my mind knew that, but I had to still check. So I checked, and then I was walking to the bathroom. While I'm up, go to the bathroom. And this, how they had those open closets sometimes in hotels, and they'll have a spare pillow or
Oh
blanket.
yeah.
Yeah, so I was walking past that, and something flew off the shelf at me, and I ducked, and then I flipped on the light. I'm like, what is happening? And nothing. There was nothing there, but something big and black, about, I would say, the size of a pillow, was coming at me. So, I ducked and nothing was there. Didn't think anything about it. Went back to bed, and then went back to Arizona. And one of my fellow paralegals said, oh, she was from Salt Lake City. Where'd you stay? What'd you do? And I told her the Shiloh Inn, and she goes, oh, that has a really tragic history. A lady threw her 7 children off of, from one of the floor's windows, and then, committed suicide. And it was this huge story about her husband was some crazy religious guy, and he'd been killed, and she thought that the kids were the devil's spawn. And so she threw him off. And for years, I didn't know, did it happen? Didn't. But when I posted it on Haunt Jaunts, eventually little details were coming in from people who had stayed there at that time and saw, yes, I was there that summer that happened when she did that. And then one of the kids actually survived and went to go live in Colorado, of all places. And where I'm from, that's why I say all places. But it was so weird. And I was like, but I'll never forget when she told me, oh, that's where, the lady threw her kids. I got just goosebumps. I was like, what does that mean? So then we moved to Florida in 99, and we were in Harry's down in St. Augustine. And I went to go use the bathroom on the second floor. And it was empty. I was the only person in there, but I'm washing my hands, and I'm like, I can see in the mirror, nobody's there, but somebody else was there. So I went, as soon as I left the bathroom, I'm like, oh, I'm so silly. And but it was just such a weird reaction. So then I'm in Barnes and Noble looking at haunted places in Florida, and it says, the ghost in the bathroom at 46 Avenida Menendez. And I'm like, where is that? In St. Augustine. And so I'm like, what's 46 Avenida Menendez? So figured it out. It was Harry's. So after
Wow.
that, I would drag my husband every weekend. Let's go check this place out. So we went all over Florida. And then finally, every time we got somewhere, I'm like, so tell me about your ghost. And he's like, he figured out, when I'd say, do you want to go to so and so this weekend? He's like, is this another one of your haunt jaunts? So he's the one who named
Oh wow. Okay.
he named it.
That's cool. And
Yeah.
how does Wayne deal with following you everywhere to these places?
The good thing is he loves to travel. He
Oh, that's awesome.
he has a total gypsy spirit. He does not like ghosts. He does not like horror. He does not like the paranormal. So he is not happy about sometimes when I'm like, I booked us in this cool haunted hotel. There's no excitement on his part, but he goes along.
Is he not a believer, or is he just doesn't like that stuff? Because I know some people believe and they want to avoid it at all costs, and there's people like you and I who just we run towards it, you know?
Yeah. He he's not I don't think he is a believer, but I also think he's maybe I think he it's a great question. I don't know how to answer. I would say he probably leans more towards non-believer,
Hmm.
but he also doesn't necessarily like it. Like he does not, he thinks a screw's loose. I don't understand why this appeals to you. I don't know what the deal is, but okay, I'll go along.
And it's interesting, you're talking about these stories and you're kind of getting this sort of external objective um, validation for your stories. And it reminded me, because I posted a story on your site, something that happened to me up in High Falls, New York, where I'd heard uh, what I'm suspecting is maybe Bigfoot howls. I mean, it just sounded like monkeys. It sounded like big apes or monkeys, just something primate. And somebody had read the article on your site and contacted me personally, and she was saying that yeah, a couple of years earlier, her and her mother were passing through the area at about midnight. They had stopped off for dinner. They were driving, I forget from where to where, but they were passing through High Falls, New York. And she was like, what you described on the blog, which was your blog, she said, my mother and I heard the same thing. They had to pull over and like roll down the windows. And like, what is that? Like, they were just hearing this like guttural scream. And she said it sounded like what you said, like apes in a monkey house where they get all excited and and it was just so cool to have somebody not just validated because Laura, my wife, was with me at the time, and we heard it, we experienced it together. But to have someone I don't know who just kind of stumbled upon your site and found my article about this and was like, "Oh my God, we heard the same exact thing." And she wrote to me on Facebook and she's like, "Are you the Jason Stroming from Jaunts?" And I was like, "Yeah, I wrote that article." And so it was really cool to have this sort of outsider person I don't know, complete stranger, just say, "Hey, I encountered, we experienced the same thing. My mother and I heard the same thing." So we talked for a little bit, and that was really cool. But it's always, it's really cool to get that sort of validation that you're not crazy. And again, I'm not saying what I heard was Bigfoot, but
It was weird.
it was not a coyote. I mean, and you go upstate New York, there's not a lot of crazy wildlife up there. There's coyotes, there's bears, there's deer, there's, I mean, they have fishers, they have some cougar, maybe mountain lions, but
But that didn't
this
sound like.
it was like you could the basiness of it, like you could feel it in your chest. It was
Ugh.
just, and it just sounded like, and it sounded like multiple. It sounded like two or three of them. Like it was just crazy. But she said the same thing. So my mother and I had to pull over because they were just driving and they heard it. She said we had to pull over, turn off the engine, and roll the windows down to like listen to this. And she was like, we had no idea what it was.
That's wild that they were even driving and heard it and stopped. That's loud then.
Yeah. I mean, it's quiet up there. It's very sort of, it's Hudson River Valley. It's,
Mm,
it's, you know, Ichabod Crane and all that. Uh,
pastoral.
yeah, definitely. But so yeah, that just reminded me of that because yeah, that was the article I actually wrote. One of the articles I wrote for your site.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
didn't you do a lot of Bigfoot hunting expeditions and stuff?
I
not
I,
so much.
I actually don't. So you've probably seen me title my articles "Bigfoot hunting in the Adirondacks" or "Ghost hunting in the Adirondacks," but I've never really been on an expedition. I mean, I
Oh, okay.
yeah, like me and my buddy Josh, we go camping a lot up there, and for me, Bigfoot hunting is just being out there. It's not knocking on trees, it's not yelling into the woods. It's just like, and I've said this before on the podcast, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself to people, but most Bigfoot experiences are not people in the woods looking for Bigfoot. It's someone goes camping, someone's hiking, someone's hunting. Like they're just doing their normal stuff, what they do out there. So, my whole goal was like, well, I love camping. And if just by going camping, I'm kind of Bigfoot hunting anyway, like, you know,
Score.
score. Exactly. So yeah, we just go and we have fun and we just camp deep in the Adirondacks and sometimes we go pretty deep. Um, but yeah, it's really just a matter of like not actively looking for Bigfoot, but just sort of being yourself and paying attention to anything that might happen. And you're always looking in the ground on the mud, looking for tracks, and
The
mostly what we see
clues.
is clues and
Yeah.
yeah. So we've had a few weird experiences. Nothing I can conclusively say was anything strange, but just kind of makes you like scratch your head and be like, what was that?
Hmm.
So that's always fun.
Oh,
But
cool.
that's basically my version of haunt jaunts is just going camping.
I love it.
We go to like Gettysburg a couple times a year because that's supposedly haunted. Have you been to Gettysburg yet?
Not yet. It's so
Uh,
high on my buddy list, my bucket list. But I haven't.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
you would love it there.
Oh, that's everybody says like go, and I'm like I keep wanting to, and it, I thought we might in 2021 and even this year because of the pandemic was forcing we like to go abroad and it was forcing us to stay here, but it still hasn't happened. I just have to
Yeah,
make it happen. I just have to.
yeah. It's a very cool place, and there's so much history in the town. I mean, the battlefields are great, but like going into the towns and just going into some of the buildings that were there during the war, and just seeing like the old bullet holes and the damage, and that and they do tons of tours, and there's just so many like little informational plaques around the town. It's great. You definitely should
Oh,
go. You would love it.
that's awesome. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's gonna happen.
Okay. Cool. So was that the only paranormal experience you had, or have you had others in your jaunts?
Oh, mm, not so much in the Jaunts, but I did have a funny, two funny ones at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin.
Oh, okay.
Um, so the story goes that one of the ghosts is that the a little girl fell down the stairs, and so I was trying to get a cool shot of the stairs, but these people came around and they kind of been in the bar and they were not lit, but they were happy, and they came around and they were like, "Oh, are you looking for the ghost?" And as serious as I could, I turned around and I was like, "Did you see her too?" They just were like, "What?" And it's just priceless because it was just funny to me. But then also at that hotel, well, another cool thing was when we checked in, I came down because I knew they had a ghost sheet, or a sheet that would tell the story. So I went down the concierge and I said, "Hey, can I get one of the sheets?" And a bellboy happened to be standing there and he's like, "Oh, did you have an experience? What side of the hotel are you?" And I'm like, "We just checked in and dropped off our bags. Like we did nothing." And then I said, "We're on the newer side." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, do you have a second? I'll come show you." He took us on a personal 45-minute tour all over the hotel, gave us inside stories of, the maids and stuff that have had, or the, you don't call them that anymore, do you? It's what are they called?
Housekeepers,
Yes, thank
housekeeping.
you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm dating myself. I'm sorry, folks, I'm old. So I grew up knowing them about housekeeping. So he was telling the stories about things they've encountered. And he was talking about this one, the fire hoses,
Hmm.
how it's like in a big heavy frame almost. It looks like more of a frame that they put it in. And it was opening. Security was watching this huge heavy, and he was showing us that it's not just something that could just be knocked open. You have to pull it, and it was just opening by itself. And the security was like, "What in the heck is happening?" It was so cool. So he gave us good stuff. But then that night we went out on what, I don't know what that main street is called right there. I forget, but we went out there, came back, and we'd fallen asleep. It was probably like midnight-ish, a little after. And my husband always gets up early. And to me it felt like we had just gone to bed, and I'm like, why is he already up? Because there was footsteps on this side of the bed, and my side was by the windows, his side was, by the door and everything to get out. And I was like, and I knew that I'd put the remote on my side, and I was like, why is he up already? Come on, I just want to sleep in. And then from beside me, he said, do you hear those footsteps? And I went,
Uh,
what? And he goes, never mind. And I was like, never mind, because if he gets freaked out, that'll be the it for me staying in haunted hotels. So I just laid there and I was like peeking, don't see anything. All is well.
that's great.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I haven't had any more just, you know, that way. There's weird things I capture. I like to walk around, just getting footage of the hotels that I never put online. I'm actually now trying to go back and create videos to put online, and I'll pick up things and I'm like, that could be somebody, come, like I can't tell now because I wasn't there, but there's been a
right.
couple of almost maybe EVP-ish kind of things. And there's been actually another time I have footsteps a lot. I don't know why. I think sometimes people are more in tune. I don't know why footsteps. I get a lot of footsteps. But we were at the Jekyll Island Hotel, and this was during COVID. It was September 2020, and nobody was upstairs above us. And we were in the main, no, yeah, we were in the clubhouse part on the second floor, and nobody was, they were trying to keep rooms, a little bit empty or whatever.
Hmm.
But it was also just an empty time, and nobody was really around us. Nobody was upstairs, and we kept hearing kids racing up and down the hallway up there. I'm like, that's so weird. And then the probably 3 nights, and I forget how many nights we were there, maybe 2 nights. We well, I don't remember how many nights we were there, but it was either 2 or 3 nights into our stay when we got a family next door to us, and they had little kids. And we thought at first, we're like, oh, must be them. But wait, no, it can't be them because they just got here. And then I was talking to one of the guys downstairs who parks cars and, helps with the baggage, another bellboy kind of concierge combo. And he's like, well, that on the third floor, there's a lot of people report those kids running up and down. I'm like, I've heard them,
Wow.
seen them. I mean, not seen them, but heard them. So stuff like that. We've had that. And I forget what it's called. It's in San Francisco, right by um, it's right near Ghirardelli Square. If I think about it long enough, it'll come back to me probably at 2 o'clock this morning. But we are in that hotel, and I heard footsteps, but didn't see it. It was just, it's weird. It's weird how it's like, just things happen, but it's not, I'm not actively, it just sort of happen.
Right. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's almost, because I'm a ghost hunter, and anytime people, I mean, now it's not so much a novelty anymore, but 10 years ago it was, and people would hear, oh, you're a ghost hunter, I want to come with you. And I'm like, you really don't. And they're like, no, it's like so exciting. We see it on TV. And I'm like, no, what you're seeing on TV is, edited
For
down,
entertainment.
and it's pure entertainment. It's all fake. So it's all edited down. I said, it's 10 hours of sitting in a dark room, asking questions, and nothing happens. Or if something does happen, it's fleeting. So you have 10 hours and you have 3 seconds of
What was
maybe
that?
those were footsteps, or maybe I heard a voice. And then they got to go home and listen to all the audio and like, oh, that sounds so cool too. And I'm like, well, no, because we have 8 recording devices. We have 4 cameras and 4 audio recorders,
Oh
and
my
each one of them
God.
is recording for 10 hours. So now you have how many hours? And like, oh my God, that's so much. And I was like, yes, it's a lot of stuff to get through. Like, it's not glamorous. It's not fun. Um, but again, most of the stuff that happened to us is when we least expected it. Not when we were looking for stuff, not when we were actively ghost hunting. It's usually like when nothing was happening and it's getting late and we start goofing off and we're just like, hey, how's work? And oh yeah, work was great this week. And you kind of get away from the ghost hunting, and then all of a sudden it's, you're hearing and you're like, oh man, what was that? Or the best part is always when, like, before you set up your recording equipment or right after you turn it all off.
Oh,
But it's like, well, the sun's coming up and we got to get out of here. And, we've been up for, 23 hours. We just got to go to sleep. And you turn it off, and then you're walking back upstairs, and then you hear something behind you and you're like, fuck. 10 hours and, but 10 hours and 3 minutes, that's when they decide to be like, hello. So
We're here now.
we're here now. So yeah, so my approach now is really just don't actively look. If you don't actively look, that's when you'll have experiences like you go to these hotels and you're not actively looking, you're just trying to sleep, or you're just trying to, hang out, and you hear
Just do whatever.
do whatever, and you're hearing the kids running or the footsteps, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat, but yeah, that's why I think I ghost hunted twice, and I was like, nope, I don't have the patience. I didn't. Not only that, but the time. I mean, that was you guys would talk about that. I'm like, that is like that's like 2 weeks, like a 2 week full-time job going through to review things. No, no, I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, I mean, it was terrible. We'd all have to divvy up the evidence, and you take two recorders and you take two recorders, and then you get home from work, you have dinner, and then headphones go on, or you're watching the screen, or you're listening, or both, and a couple hours a night, and you're just staring at a fixed camera that's just shooting stairs in night vision, or
Oh,
on a dresser in night vision, and you're just like, you try not to fall asleep, you're trying not to, you get like that hypnosis where you're just kind of like staring at something for so long, and you got to kind of snap yourself out of it. So you can't even do it for that long. You got to kind of get up and
have
wake
breaks.
yourself up and take breaks. And it's we don't do it much anymore, and I thank God for that, because it's a young person's game. It's I'm in
I
bed by
agree.
11 these days, and I can't.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The staying up late.
Yeah,
We were down in Old St. Pittsburgh. No, I think it's called Old St. Pittsburgh Hospital. I don't know what they call it. Old St. Pittsburgh or just St. Pittsburgh in Tennessee, St. or Pittsburgh, Tennessee. And it was so hot. It was summer and they didn't have AC. And it was back before whoever owns it now. So there was tons of I'm sure it's like the least healthy place, mold and dust and horrible, probably asbestos. It was terrible inside there. And they've cleaned it up now though. I've heard, I haven't actually been back, but it was so hot. And then there was activity. The K2s were going off, and not so much with the EVPs or anything, but I just remember thinking, I'm not staying here tonight. I'll die. I mean, they had a room, and it did have AC, and they had mattresses, and you could lay there. But I'm like, no, I checked out at 3 and I went to go get a shower at the hotel, and I conked out for a few hours and then went back home. But it's like you have to deal with those conditions and the no sleeping, and it's like, and then the patience thing. I just don't have patience. So it's like, no, no, I can't do this.
yeah, and that's what I would tell people. It's like, look, in the summer you're turning the AC off, in the winter you're turning the heat off, and we did this one investigation up in Narragansett, Massachusetts, in like late November, and it was freezing. And I remember we're all wearing like these bulky winter coats. I had like a parka on, and we're wearing gloves and the hats and the earmuffs, and because you're in this old building, you can't have the heat on because that is contamination, either from the electrical or just from the noise.
Noisy, huh?
Because again, 3 weeks later, whoa, what's that banging? You don't remember. You're not now. You're back in Brooklyn or you're Staten Island or New York City or whatever, and you're not up in Narragansett, Massachusetts. So you don't remember what the heating system sounded like, and now you're hearing this bang. So you got to turn the heat off. You got to turn the electrical off. And we froze. I mean, you could see our breath in the building. It just got
Oh,
so cold. Um, but yeah, that's what you deal with when you're doing this stuff. And people, they watch Ghost Hunters or the other stuff on TV, and they're like, "Oh, that's so cool! I want to come with you." And it's like, you really don't. You really don't. I don't
you
even know
should
why I
just
do this anymore.
that's awesome.
I was actually going to ask you that if you've ever been on any like organized ghost hunts, and
Yeah,
you
just
answered that. Yeah.
um and that was like a group, that I went with. I've never done how you can do the events where somebody will set up something for people to I've never done one of those because it's first of all too many people, and I it wouldn't I don't think that would interest me. So unless if I really, really wanted to see the place and that was my only way in, then I would do it. But
Yeah. I mean, we used to run some ghost tours here on Staten Island, and it's rough when you got 20, 30 people trying to cram into an old building, and they're all asking questions of who's talking or who's pushing the other person, who's teasing the other person because they don't really want to be there. And it's cool if it's informative, but to actually do like a large scale
oh,
investigation like that, it's just too much contamination, because you listen back to something, and well, there are 30 people in here. It could have been anybody.
Oh, man.
So, you can't really, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't blame you for not really being into that.
No,
Um,
it's not.
I think we were going to take you around at one point. I think you had plans years ago. You were going to come to the
To
city.
to go up, yeah. And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, for some reason we were there. That might have been when I had the plantar fasciitis. And I couldn't get across, or we were gonna be there on like a Tuesday, and you're like, yeah, that you
Yeah.
need to come on a weekend, Courtney.
Yeah, because I think we were all working and like you're like, oh, I can do like Tuesday at noon. And I'm like, well,
You're
we're
like,
all working.
sorry, what planet do you live on? Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah. No, we were all bummed about that because we wanted to meet you and like show you
And you were
around.
gonna take me to some good pizza place. I remember now.
Yes, yes. Yep. New York City pizza.
So one day I'll get back up there and
Yeah,
we can at least just hang out and have pizza and beer or something.
exactly. And maybe have an experience because we won't be ghost hunting.
Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. So what have been some of your favorite places to go? Do you
Ooh,
have like do you have places that you've like been like a repeat visitor to that you really like? Because like I said, I go to Gettysburg like twice a year.
wow.
Yeah,
So
but
you
it's
really like
I
Gettysburg.
love it there. Yeah, and not even
Oh,
just for the ghosts, just for the history and
just yeah, everybody says that. That's I really got to get there because we have here, some Civil War stuff and there's a Stones River battlefield, but it doesn't have old buildings around it like that. But in Franklin, they still have a couple old plantation homes that have the bullet holes that were used as hospitals and they have
oh
ghost
wow,
stories and stuff attached to them. But everybody says go to Gettysburg. That's you'll definitely love it. Now, my husband has weird twice now. He's had um when you talk about when we went to the first time to Carton Plantation here, we took the tour and looking through the grounds and then I think we had to leave earlier. Maybe as we were getting ready to leave, they were setting up for a wedding and he got mad. Well, first of all, we were walking through before even that happened, we were walking through the cemetery and he just had weird, he just wasn't acting right. He not him. He's very pragmatic. He's an accountant. So he's very by the books. I mean, he's fun. He's got fun spirit, but he's not real emotional or, oh, I think I feel, he's just not that way. And he was just acting real weird walking through the cemetery. And then he saw them setting up for the wedding and he got mad. He's like, this is just no, there's souls here. They don't like it. They don't need to do that. And he's never said anything like that. So that was weird. But I digressed. My favorite places to go, I like to go to Jekyll Island, which I was talking about. That hotel, there's something about the Gilded Age that I don't know if I was alive in a past life. And if I was, there's probably, a servant or something, I'm sure, but there's just something from my whole life since I was little bitty, I've been attracted to that. And so that, like, for me, it almost feels like I'm home because I'm like, oh, this is my era. Like, I love that era. And then, Alcatraz, anytime I'm in San Francisco, I will, if I can, I don't always have time. I like to take the ferry over and I could see Alcatraz just the photo opportunities alone there.
yeah.
I've never had any kind of weird thing happen there or anything, but those are two. And then anytime I get to go to Chicago, just in general, Chicago, I love Chicago. We don't generally go back a lot of places other than that. If I can drag my husband to Jekyll, we'll go. He doesn't like to repeat visit places. He's
Oh,
like, the
okay.
world's so big. I gotta go back to, I want to see this and that. And um, but those are what we do get to go to Chicago a lot, San Francisco, and then I will drag him to Georgia. So those are like my three main that I like to go to again and again.
Those are cool places though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been to Alcatraz. I'd love to go there though.
Oh,
That
it's
seems like
just
such a cool place.
it's so amazing. Just like you said, it's just the history and the ruins of it. And there's just everywhere you turn, there's cool photos. I mean, that you can take that. It's cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why a lot of these places get this sort of haunted reputation. I think we just don't have a name for it, because there is that sense of history, and that sense of tragedy, and that sense of pain. And you go to these places and they're unchanged. Like you can go to Alcatraz and see what it was like back in the day. You can go to Gettysburg, and it's so easy just to imagine like this was just all farmland in Pennsylvania, 160 years ago or whatever.
And time travel.
Yeah, and it's almost unsettling because most of us live in big cities or even small cities or towns. We're living in, civilization. So to go back to something that's kind of stuck in time, I think it can be unsettling. And I think that's not to explain all hauntings like that, but I think, kind of like what Wayne was feeling, and just it can unsettle you because it's just it's almost like you're looking into the past, and it's just like this is not our world, that it's almost otherworldly. So I think paranormal sort of creeps in, and you're thinking you're seeing ghosts or hearing things, or I mean that's different, but just that feeling you get when you go to these places and you kind of feel haunted.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
very interesting you say. And I just thought of something else when you were talking about that. Another of my favorite places, I haven't got to go now in a few summers. We were going every summer for a while, but is Alaska. And that's another place I feel really, because some of those towns, um, like Skagway, it just is so well preserved, the history. And it's like, okay, I almost feel like too, but I grew up in Colorado. So I think some of that um, is in my psyche from being a kid and watching Little House on the Prairie and that kind of thing, that I think, oh yeah, I remember being in the Old West when I never was in the Old West, at all. But I feel it feels comfortable, it feels familiar, but it also is jarring because it's like, why do I feel? Because I have never lived. I've always lived in a big city, so
yeah.
it's kind of weird. But it's interesting you say that, because I think that is what we feel like. It's not just in a book that we're reading, we're there and we're breathing the same, well, not the same exact air, but similar, and probably the same smells. And you can touch I don't know, it becomes very visceral.
Exactly. I actually took my son this weekend. We went to a park here on Staten Island called Conference House Park, and we were going to take you there actually when you came to Staten Island. And it's an old house at the very southern end of Staten Island. And
Is
it,
this the Cropsey one?
no,
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 that's something else.
that's Seaview, the
Okay.
facility, the Seaview Hospital facility.
Okay.
But this is the conference house. They call it the conference house because in on September 11th of 1776, Ben Franklin, John Adams, and Lord Admiral Howe met there to have a conference to try to avert the Revolutionary War, and it failed. But my son and I, we go to this house a couple times a year because it's a short drive. It's about 20 minutes away. And just to go there, and like I was telling my son this weekend, I was like, Ben Franklin was in this house that we're in right now. And John Adams, I mean, President of the United States, like Ben Franklin, um, like history happened here. And I was like touching the brick, and he kind of looked at me and I was like, this building was built in like 1630.
Wow.
This building was over 100 years old when Ben Franklin got here. Like this
Wow.
was an old building, 100 and how many years old when Ben Franklin got there. So I said, just imagine that, like how far we are removed from Ben Franklin. And when he was at this building that was built in 1630, it was already, 146 years old. It's insane. And it's just, you can't not feel a little bit of awe. And again, we're in America. It's the new world. Like we don't have the Roman Colosseum. We don't have, the Grecian ruins. Like we don't have stuff that goes back thousands of years, but to have a man-made structure that's from 1630, like still standing,
Wild.
it's wild. So yeah, I do appreciate like going to these places, like what you're saying. Like you go to these places and you're standing in the same place, you're breathing that same air, probably the same smells, like just the same sights. You're seeing what these people 100 years ago saw.
Yeah.
Great, it's awesome.
It's so cool.
Um, yeah, so that's awesome. Do you have any plans coming up? Any trips coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah, going to both Chicago and San
Oh, nice.
Francisco pretty soon. But we don't have another big anything after that. So we'll but it won't be long before we get something on the books. We try to do something, even if it's just a day trip somewhere. We,
Hmm.
try to go see stuff. There's so much that, like, Gettysburg, and I still haven't even been to I really want to go to the um it's in Eureka Springs, the 1886 hotel. What's it called? It always slips my mind, but I know it's in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. A big old fancy hotel, and it'll come to me too, I'm sure, eventually. And just tons of, oh, in Williamsburg,
Oh
Virginia.
yeah.
Never been there yet either. So much, I just like the history of the stuff that I just want to go see it. So
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So you have like a running list of places you want to go?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been the same list for probably the last 10, 12 years, more than that, probably even 15 or 20 now, but it's been a long time. And I don't know why I just don't make it happen to go to these. I don't know. You're making me question myself, but you're not.
No, no,
It's
no,
not
no.
you. It's just the fact you ask questions, and now I'm questioning myself.
So when you do go to Chicago or San Francisco, do you always look for the haunted hotels to stay in?
Yeah, I stayed. I won't stay in the Congress Hotel because it has bad reviews, and I've
Oh,
heard
okay.
not good things. I want to, but I've also heard it's pretty creepy, and so I don't. I can just see something terrible happening. It's like that's it. But it also doesn't get. It's probably a fine hotel, and if anybody stayed there, I don't mean to offend it. It just there's other places that. So I stayed at the Drake there, and I think this time if I can, I think it's the Palmer House Hotel, but it's usually so expensive. But I might just spring for it, YOLO, and it
Yeah.
depends on how expensive. Sometimes I think that's why I haven't ever stayed there because every time I want to, it's like 400, $500, and I'm like,
Wow.
I don't think I can spring for justify that. So
No.
maybe not this time again, but it's on my bucket list. And in San Francisco, I will stay down by the wharf in this hotel, which I can see its big marquee, and I don't know why the name, it's just I can see it, but I can't, it's not materializing in my mind. We'll stay there again where I heard footsteps
Yeah.
another time. It's got a lot of history right there near it's right by Ghirardelli Square, and or Girardelli. I'm probably butchering that. And
Yeah, I don't know how to say it either. Giardelli, Giardelli,
something
Giardelli. Depends on
chocolate.
chocolate. It's the chocolate place. Yeah. Did you see any haunted sites when you were in New York City?
Um,
Do you remember, or was that not the type of trip?
um, you know, I was there. So the one time when I came up, when I was going to try to get with you, um, I was in so much pain that all we did was ride the hop on, hop off,
Oh, okay.
um, with my foot. And then we went back, and I I didn't even think to really look, which is crazy because we were right there, and we stayed at a great hotel, which I can't think of the name of it either. But it was right there was a church behind that's like a notable church.
Okay.
And we were right by it. And that probably had some kind of, but I didn't, I'm ashamed to admit
Oh
I
no,
did
no, no.
not.
Sometimes you got to travel
Sometimes I
just for.
forget. I'll get there and I just get so overwhelmed, you know. I'm a terrible photographer. And actually, I believe it was you guys that actually said, "Hey, put your lines on your thing. It's all crooked, but if you put your lines on your camera, you can see." And that helped. So I'm positive it was you guys who helped me with that way back when,
It was
which
probably Laura because she's a photographer.
yes, I think it was. And I am still not a good photographer, but they're a lot straighter now. Things are.
Oh, that's good. But yeah, you have to travel sometimes and not be into the paranormal stuff all the time. It's
Yeah, and take a
um,
break.
yeah, and I was talking to my buddy Josh about this a couple of trips ago, and I was just sort of saying that like when people find this out about you that you're into the paranormal or whatever, they kind of think it's like all you think about, and they're just always like, oh, did you do this? And it's like, well, no, like I have other interests. I don't just ghost hunt 24/7. I don't just look for Bigfoot 24/7. I'm not looking up into the sky all the time looking for UFOs. Like I have to do other things. Um, and I have other hobbies. I have other, I have a son. I play guitar. Like I do other stuff. I'm not just, a paranormal person.
Not
So
one
not
dimensional.
one dimensional, as I talk on my paranormal podcast. Uh,
But this is just one dimension of your
just one
many
dimension.
dimensions. That's what we did this last time we went to we took a big trip. We were 12 days in Spain and France. It was a Mediterranean cruise. And I did look a little bit before. Well, mostly I looked for cuckoo things to go see. And sorry, I apologize. My cat's screaming if you can hear
I
him
can
in the
hear
it's not he's normally quiet, but for some reason he's like, hey, pay attention. But
him.
I did take uh a break. Because I really hadn't taken a break, even in the pandemic. I was always still feeling pressure to, and I said, this time I'm just not, I'm just gonna enjoy my vacation. And I saw really cool things, but the thing that was so interesting was you speaking of how old, thousands of years old, some of those buildings were over there. And they're like here, if you go to any little city or that has a lot of history, you'll see ghost tours, pretty much everywhere. I was really struggling. I think Barcelona did have one, but I didn't actively pursue it. But it's not in your face. Hey, come see our. It's so different. And it was almost like a culture shock how we react to ghosts here versus how they react to all of that. It's
Mhm.
very interesting. So that was kind of a cool, but it was nice to take just a break and play tourist and have a vacation and a break from computers and social media and all of that stuff. It was really a good detox.
Yeah, you don't always feel like you're always on. You're always got to
Yeah.
film. You always got I got to take pictures. I got to for the blog, for the podcast, for the because it just eats up so much bandwidth, and then you stop to kind of just you stop enjoying what you're doing because you're so busy worried about oh, I got to edit a video when I get home, and I got to get good footage, and I got to get a better picture, and just enjoy it. Sometimes you
Yeah.
can't always be hunting for spooks and spirits.
No, you can't. It's a good advice. Listen to that, folks.
So you doing anything special for Halloween? I know this is like your favorite time of year. Mine
It
too.
is, but I'm
Mine
not.
too.
We'll be back in time for Halloween Day, but the weekend before we'll be gone. So I don't even have, I hate to admit, I have nothing up right now. It makes me so very sad. Well, I have my normal, stuff
Right.
up that's always up, but I normally put some big stuff out and I have a movie that runs in the front window. And I haven't had time. But when we came back, then I was sick and there was doctor's appointments and friends and I just it's been one thing after another and no time. So I hate to say that I'm failing Halloween this year.
That's okay. There's no wrong way to do Halloween. I just watch scary movies every weekend. That's how I.
Oh, see, and that's like a nightly thing for me almost. So
Yeah. Well, my son
like
comes over on weekends, so like he and I will just watch bad movies or classic. I mean, it's either like worst of the worst or like total classics. Like we just watched Halloween this past weekend,
oh
like the original Halloween.
yeah, that's a good
Um,
one.
we've watched like The Thing, another John Carpenter, The Thing. Um, but yeah, we've seen some real stinkers, some like real bad
Yeah,
stuff
there's a
on
lot of
Netflix or
those.
Amazon Prime. Just like and we know going in, we're like this. You watch the trailer and it's like this is going to be bad, but we'll laugh at it, and you just have fun that way.
That's the best. It's the best. I love that. Have you seen any good ones though that you were like, "Oh, I wasn't really expecting that to be good, but I enjoyed it."
Um, Not really.
No.
I have a
Oh,
few. I have a few posted on my blog. I got to remember what they are. The Phoenix tapes are really good. My son and I get really into like found footage
oh,
because I don't know, we just really we got like to like a groove with found footage stuff like before the pandemic into the pandemic. So the Phoenix tapes are really good. The Blackwell Ghost series is really good. It's really well done. Um, Trying to think what else. There's the Bad Ben series that we watch, which is laughably bad, but it's really good. They're corny and quirky. My son loves them. We watched the first one and he was like, "This is awesome." And then we found out
oh,
he had made two more, and I think he's releasing the 11th one on October 27th. So really
wow.
cool. It's comedy basically, but they're funny. They're fun. They're just so bad they're good, and you can't just help but like this guy. And that's a really good series. Bad
Oh,
Ben, check them
Bad
out.
Ben. Okay.
Bad
And
Ben.
where's that on Amazon Prime?
I it keeps fluctuating. I mean, you know how
Oh,
Amazon is. I mean, they and all these streaming services. One minute they have it, the next minute
and
they
then
don't. Because I get
yeah,
recommendations. Oh, this is on Amazon Prime, and someone will send me the link. Oh, I'll watch it this weekend, and then by the time I get to it, it's already gone.
it's
You know.
gone. Yeah.
So I know he's on Amazon. He's some of his stuff's on Amazon. I think some of his stuff is on Vudu, VUDU, which is a streaming service. But yeah, I think you can go to his website, just badbenmovie.com, and
Okay. Bad Ben. Okay. I'm gonna check that out. Cool.
yeah, they're quirky, but they're fun and they're not too scary.
Ah,
Um,
that's good.
First one's the best one, like any movie series.
That's
So yeah, check out the first one. It's the first one is meant to be serious, and he didn't realize he was kind of unintentionally funny, and it was just so bad that it was good. And then now he's just kind of leaned into that. He's just
oh,
and it's great because he's just he has fun with it. So it's a great series, and we have a lot of fun with that.
oh, that's
So
cool.
that's like our Halloween tradition now. We watch Bad Ben movies.
Bad Ben, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I love those kind of. It's
yeah,
just fun.
yeah.
Halloween just fun. I love all the like Huluween and um I don't know what Netflix they have their secret codes and I think they have something that's though Halloween and Amazon I noticed it and has some I forget what they call their special Halloween section and HBO Max. It's just cool that they're all like embracing it now.
Yeah, I mean, for years, like you just try, you'd find one horror movie once in a while, or like USA Up All Night, like back in the day, and like when basic
Yeah.
cable used to come around, you had to like stay up and watch that, or Joe Bob Briggs on TNT, Monster Vision. There was all
Oh
those
my
like,
gosh, I forgot about that.
yeah, I think he's on Shutter now. I think he has a show again, Joe
Oh,
Bob
yeah, I
Briggs.
think you're right.
It's like Joe Bob Briggs at the drive-in or something.
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say something movie or drive, but you're right,
Yeah, I
it's
think it's
drive-in.
at the drive-in or something. So I got to check that out because it was like on a streaming service, and I just wasn't subscribed. But I used to love his show on TNT, Monster Vision.
Ah,
That was
I
great. Just
don't know if I ever watched it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, it was like
Um,
typical like Elvira or Svengoolie, like any of these like sort of hosted
shows.
horror movies, on a Saturday night, and between commercial breaks, he would come on and kind of give some commentary or little known facts about the movie, and they'd kind of goof on it a little bit. So really fun stuff, and I live for that type of thing.
I was gonna say that's right up your
Oh, it
alley.
totally is. Totally
That's
is
why
just
you're so good
snarky
at it
commentary.
because you know that's your thing. Like that's cool.
Yeah, I grew up on Mystery Science Theater and that type of stuff. So just
That
riffing on bad movies. Yeah.
explains so much because you like are so good at it, but I don't know if that's like in your DNA anyways, and you were drawn, or you just picked it up. Like you know how we
Oh
learn. Like
yeah.
you're just really good at
A
that.
little bit of both because my dad was Mystery Science Theater for me before Mystery Science Theater came out. He would just goof on stuff and just running commentary. I mean, to this day, we can watch anything. We put on Family Feud and he'll just have a running commentary and goof on the people. And it's just so great. It's just, I laugh so hard because he's just got these great jokes and you're just like, oh my God, can't watch a show without the commentary. But I love that because I love Mystery Science Theater and I just love, riffing. And my son and I do
Oh,
the same thing now. Like if we're watching a bad movie, we just riff on it,
it
because
is in the
it
DNA.
is.
That's awesome. And Spenguli, I heard that like what's what's the generation now that's after millennials? I don't
Like
know what they're called,
I don't know, Zoomers or
something like that.
some weird thing. Yeah,
Now they're really embracing like Svengoolie for them is going to be what Elvira and stuff was to us
right.
because they are just embracing that. Like there's, and people are surprised. They were really surprised to learn that his audience was so young because it started to be more well, I think I'm older than you are even, but it
Yeah, we're
was
probably about the same, but
more older and then they were shocked when they saw the demographics of how many people younger love him, which he's funny. So
yeah, because that's like that old timey,
yeah,
corny, like just
Abbott and
just
Costello sometimes.
exactly. I
Like,
was looking for the word, but yeah, like Abbott and
yeah,
Costello, or just that like vaudeville, Soupy Sales and
yeah,
Captain
just
Kangaroo, just
silly, and
that
they
silly,
love
yeah,
it. So kind of interesting. It's weird how the what's old is new again, and well, I would like to be new again.
yeah,
No,
me too. Two new knees, a new back, new eyes.
yeah, that
Just
all
the
sounds
works.
good.
Just give me new everything.
Just let's have a refresh.
Yes, just put me in a new body.
That's awesome.
Speaking of that, before we start wrapping up, you mentioned like past lives, and I thought that was interesting because so many people I know mention that, like that they're just kind of drawn to something from the past. Um, I mean, my son, me, like we all have certain things that either we're drawn to or we're kind of phobic about, and it's
Mm.
like why, like why are
I
we so
think it's
phobic
our
about?
DNA.
You
I
think
think
so?
that past lives exist, and maybe a combo of how we think, but I really believe that it's something like we have DNA that we've inherited from somewhere, and it comes into our, and it could be too that because there's so many cases, of little kids that were not blood related to somebody, but they can talk about a past life that
Right.
they should not know anything about. So I think there could be that too, that we somehow transfer or whatever. I don't know. That's such a great mystery, but I definitely, that's something I'm very firmly believe in the past. And I believe I lived at some point in time, like 1880s to 19. I think I might have died around the World War I, or maybe in that flu. I don't know. Something happened to me that because in the 30s I like had this aversion to. I just hated the 30s. But now I'm kind of warmed back up to that. But the one I've always been is that 1880s, late 1870s, 1880s to the 1910s, I
Interesting.
19 teens. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so funny. You talk to people, and again, they usually don't volunteer it, but if you're talking about it, they'll just be like, "Hey, and I kind of have this feeling like, or I just have like this random memory of being in a restaurant in, yeah, 1930 or something from 1970." And it's just weird to listen to people, and they're just like, I don't know why, like ever since they were children. Like this is not
Yeah.
something that like, oh, at 35 I had this memory. It's just like even as a kid, I just had this
I
memory, or
knew.
this I was drawn to this particular period in time or this particular place, and they know things or they have these
Yeah.
memories, and it's not, oh, I used to be Napoleon. It's not that. It's like, oh, I
No.
was just some
Very
rando,
common. Yeah.
just some rando, and I just
Just
remember like, yeah, like working at this factory, or plowing this field, or or fighting in this war, and I was a nobody. I wasn't a general. I wasn't, I was just a
nope.
grunt. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that people have these like flashes of a memory, and it sticks with them. Like I
It
have it, you have it. I know
yeah.
pretty much everyone I know has that. And even if they don't really think about it at first, they'll start thinking about it like, oh, you're right. Like when I was a kid, I was really into this, or I told my mother this, and she was like, how do you know that? And it's just so interesting to me.
Yeah. I knew when I was a kid, um, one of my classmates I lived in suburban Denver, but I went to school in downtown Denver off of Cheeseman Park, actually. And she lived down there. So she had this great big old house, and her mom was into all this. She's so eclectic and cool and had all these antiques. And it was like almost being in a museum. I mean, but a fun museum, not a, she wasn't like, she's like, touch anything you want. She was the coolest mom. But in the next morning, she was like, do you guys know what this is? We were in her kitchen. Do you know what that is? And it was just random old things. And it was this like basket. And I said, oh, yeah, I used to collect eggs in that. She's like, oh, did you grow up on a farm, or did your grandparents? I'm like, oh, no, I just, and then I was like, stopped. I'm like, I have never collected eggs in my entire this life, but I knew it was just so natural for me to say. And then
Right.
she was like, well, what's this? I'm like, oh yeah, you make butter with that. I've never seen a butter churner thing in my entire life, but I knew exactly what that was and how to use it. And she just was like, that's so weird. And that was like I knew even before that, but that was, I'll never forget, because it was so strong that I knew these weird things that I never had seen them before. So That's when I knew. Oh, and she's like, dude, and it's from back from that time, like somebody's farm. I'm like, yeah, I know. I lived back then.
Yeah, it's so weird. And like you said, is it genetic memory or is it like past lives or like what is it? But so
Something.
many people, and I have it too. There's something in me that I'm just like, I lived this, and it's just a snippet. It's almost like a little scene from a movie. It's almost like just 10 seconds from a movie, and it's just that same scene over and over again.
Do you
And
know what era it's from or anything? Or
it to me, it feels like either the late 60s or early 70s.
oh, that's wild.
And I was born in 74.
Oh, that's
But
wild.
the sense I get is that it was like, yeah, like late 60s or early 70s, like that recent. Um, and it was in a factory, and I feel like I died. I feel like someone killed me. I was working over, and this is what I'm saying. It's like this just brief little memory, and I don't know where it came from, but I've had it since I was a kid. Of just, I feel like I was like stabbed, maybe, but I remember just laying and looking up at like a skylight, and just like that translucent, frosty glass, and you can kind of see the night sky through it, and like to this day I have like a phobia of, and it's not that I'm lazy, but I don't like leaving my office building when it's dark out. It just creeps, it gives me like that feeling, like I just like really uncomfortable, and I don't know why. I can work late in the summertime, I can work late when it's like light out, but
But
when
not
it's
in the winter.
when it's like dark out, I don't like working late until it's like dark, when it's
Oh
like,
my God.
yeah, it's just weird. And it's like, and I'm not saying it's paranormal, I don't know what the hell it is, maybe I just saw a movie when I was a kid or something and it stuck with me, but it's a memory from like the first person. Like I can't see myself. It's just like almost I experienced it, and I'm like, I'm 8 years old. I'm like, I've never been in a factory. I've never been in like, like why would I be laying on some hard like table, like
Concrete.
not even like something much bigger than a table, but like laying on it and just looking up and seeing the skylight, and then the memory ends. Weird.
Ooh, have you ever thought of getting like a past life regression or something?
I have. I would love to find someone that I could trust and that was like reliable. So again, anybody watching, if you wanted to regress me, comment below. But yeah, I've thought about it because like getting hypnotized or just trying to find out what that is. But it's just this very vivid couple of seconds of a memory, and it's first person memory, and it's something that I should not have had from the time I was 7 or 8. Like very young, maybe even younger. But it's
Yeah,
just,
that's a weird, it's so random too that's and so specific.
yeah, it's very specific. And again, and I don't know how I know this, but I just feel like it was like late 60s, early 70s, just like that era.
Whoa.
I don't
And
know.
what if you were, and then that jumped into
Jumped
your
into
embryo?
this
Yeah,
beautiful specimen of a
here
human
you
being.
are.
There I am. So I don't know. It's just, but yeah, you hear these stories about children who like talking about grandpa, and the like, he died before you were born, and then the kid can pick him out of a photo and be like, no, I've been talking to him. It's just weird stuff that this past life stuff, and
It's so weird. And I totally believe because there's just so much of it. And kids can't lie, especially when they're 5, 6, 7, 8. They cannot, their minds aren't that developed yet to come up with certain specifics like that I just totally believe when I read, or hear them being interviewed and stuff. It's just so, I totally believe it. Totally.
yeah,
I
it's
don't know
it's
why we do it. I don't, I have no answers for it. I just believe it.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's paranormal. I'm not saying it's even a past life, but it's just like, what is it? I think it's worth studying. It's worth looking into because it's just a weird. And then again, I know so many people who've told me the same sort of thing, that they have this little snippet of a memory or just this feeling, like you said, they're drawn to something or they know what an object is that they shouldn't know what it is. And
Yeah.
it's weird. It's very
It's
weird.
really weird, but it's so cool.
It is.
That's
Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Um,
Pepsi. We both said awesome. I don't know if you ever played that game.
oh, we do Coke.
Oh, Coke. You
You
do
owe me a
Coke.
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 Jinx, you owe me a Coke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Regional thing.
Yes, I think it is because in Colorado, well, yeah, because Colorado is more, I think, of a Pepsi state. So
Oh, okay.
that's where we grew up. So,
Yeah, we say Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
ah, okay. So,
Cool.
Jinx, you owe me a Pepsi.
Oh,
Just
I'll
kidding.
get you
I
a
don't
Pepsi.
drink Pepsi. So,
Okay, I'll send you something else.
exactly.
Awesome. So, do you have anything to plug before we go? Anything you want people to know about that you're up to, or?
No, I don't. Eventually I'm gonna have that American true crime. Oh gosh, what's it called? American True Crime Hauntings. No, I don't think I have those words in the
Okay.
right order. But it's the first season that it's not the first season I did was just random, episodes.
Oh, okay.
But it's technically the second season of my podcast, but it's the first themed season
Oh,
that I did.
nice.
So American Haunting True Crimes, that's what it's called. So
Okay.
that is eventually going to be out in a book if I can ever get my rearing gear and just put all the notes. I've started it. I just, life.
Oh yeah, I know. A million unfinished projects sitting in my
Exactly.
closet.
It's like, wow, that looks like a good, okay, I'll get to it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
that's it. So just,
Okay.
my haunt Jones, that's it.
Okay. So yeah, everybody go to hauntjaunts.net. I'm gonna link to it in the description below so everybody can find you. It's an awesome site. So much content. I'm so
Thank
jealous
you.
that you can post so much. I'm just like, I haven't done a blog post in like 3 months because I'm doing this, and I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth
Oh
to.
yeah, there's not enough. When you do it, there's not people don't it's like you're ghost hunting. You don't appreciate when you're creating the content. You can do one thing or the other. It's hard to do
Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
one. And this is awesome. I mean, you get to talk to people. You're doing so awesome. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You
Thank you.
had me on. I'm
Oh
really
yes.
excited to talk with
I
you.
know. This is great. Will you come on again?
I will.
Yeah,
And
we have more stuff to talk about. But
yeah, if I ever do where I'm interviewing folks again, I want to have you
yes, have me
on.
on,
Yeah.
please.
So
Please
that
do.
would be awesome
Awesome.
because we have more to talk,
We
much
do.
more.
We do.
We
We
have,
do.
we got to be snarky. Like, I want to delve into that with you because you think I love your, I like the way you view things and then the way that you share those views.
Well, thank you. But yeah, so next time we'll pick a few topics and then we can just kind of dice. This was more of just like I mean, this is the first time we've spoken in person, so
Yeah.
this was
A
just
meet and greet.
a meet and greet, get to know you. How you doing? Known you for 12 years, but how are you? Who are you? Let's
Oh,
talk.
oh, so that's what you really
That's
look
what
like.
you
I'm
look
just
like
kidding.
and sound like.
Oh, we've seen each other,
Yes, exactly.
but it's our first interaction.
First live interaction.
Yeah, so
Yes.
there's good. It's the chemistry still there, just like
Oh
it is
yeah.
in the typing. So that's
Exactly.
cool.
That's always
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, next episode we'll pick a few topics and we'll dissect them and I'll give you my point of view, you give your point of view, and we'll have fun.
That sounds awesome. Oh,
Awesome.
I look forward to it.
Me too. Awesome. All right. Well, this has been awesome. I keep
Yeah,
saying awesome. I know.
me too.
But
I
it
think
has been. It's just been
I
like so
jinxed you
cool.
with that because I was like,
Yes.
I keep saying awesome, and so I think now it's in your.
Yeah.
Sorry,
But this is so cool. So it's like old friends just reconnecting
I
and
agree.
or connecting for the first time.
Yeah,
Both. A little bit of
that.
both. A little bit
Yeah,
of both.
yeah. Where our past lives are coming together. No,
Exactly.
but it was great. I really appreciate this, and thanks for letting me ramble about
Oh, of course.
stuff.
Is anytime. Anytime. All right. Well, thank you so much, Court. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thanks,
And
Jason.
we'll have you back on again soon, okay?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right. Thank you, Courtney Mroch, for joining us tonight. She runs hauntjaunts.net. I'm going to put the links below in the description so you can find her website. It's an awesome website. I've known Court for years. And yeah, this is our first time talking, and it was great catching up. We just did like probably another half an hour off air talking about stuff, and that was great. Some personal stuff and our thoughts on certain people in the community that I don't want on the air. But we had a lot of fun talking and joking around, and it's great having her on. And thank you everybody for watching. Comment below. Tell me if you think I have the it factor. Courtney seems to think so, and I appreciate that from her. I don't think I have it, unless it's like the Pennywise it. But yeah, let me know, and we'll see you guys next week. That didn't show up. Stupid green screen. Rock and roll.